So we had a visitor the other day who came to the house who doesn't like dogs. And against my better judgment, I let them in anyway. But it was really important that my crew didn't interact with this person because it would make them uncomfortable and they would find that a little bit of a challenge. And also, it's not really something that I wanted to expose my dogs to. So, what did I do? How did I get my dogs to completely disengage from this person and have nothing to do with them? If you have explosions at the door when anybody comes in, whether it's workmen, whether it's visitors or members of the family, and there's massive amounts of energy and excitement that can sometimes escalate into your Chihuahua getting so overexcited that they feel the need to get their teeth out, then the tips and strategies in this video will be for you. So doors can be a huge source of anxiety for a dog. Just moving around through internal doors can cause some stress and anxiety, especially if you've got multiple dogs. We have Arlo. Arlo has a real problem with doors. He just does not like going through them, and you have to clear the way for him and step back from the door, and then he'll kind of pad through them. I don't know quite what is expecting to happen, but he does really have a little bit of a problem of anxiety around doors. But it's the front door or the main door in your house or flat or whatever that will cause a majority of anxiety for your Chihuahua. If you think about it from their point of view, so much happens. People come, people go. Their people just disappear and they have no idea when you're going to come back. Parcels come in that smell funny. Things fall through the letterbox. So you can start to see why a door can be a huge area of anxiety around the house for your dog. So it's quite understandable then that when visitors come into the house that your Chihuahua is going to get really excited. They might become so aroused that they get their teeth out, that they nip ankles, or they bark and go crazy at whoever is coming in through the door. So if that is your reality, I've got some useful tips and strategies on how I get my Chihuahuas to completely ignore people when they come in through the front door, and when they are ready to interact with them, that they're nice and calm. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is trying to deal with this behavior when it's all kicking off, when you've got people coming in the door. So it could look a bit like this. So you've got someone coming in the door and your Chihuahua's barking and jumping around and you're going, get down, get down, get down, stop doing that, stop jumping. Or you're trying to pick them up and they're charging around like a little crazy bean. That behavior in itself is probably adding more excitement into the situation around the door. So one of the first things we do is we need to not try and resolve it at that point in the behavior. So the first tip is to manage access around the door. That is, stop your Chihuahua or Chihuahuas having access to the front door. One of the easiest ways to do this is with a baby gate or one of these kind of like fold out screen things. And it's not allowing your Chihuahua to have that interaction around the door. Now, my advice would be is have that in place anyway. It doesn't matter whether you know you've got people coming in. I would stop access to the front door if that is creating lots of excitement or anxiety for your Chihuahua. One of the reasons we manage the situation like this is because it prevents rehearsal. Now, if you think about if we rehearse something, we get really good at it. It's the same for our dogs. A dog will do, or a dog becomes what they do. So if going crazy at the door every time someone comes in the door, then obviously by default, they're going to go crazy at the door every time someone comes in the door because they practiced it, because they're getting very good at it. It is now a habit that they've established. So the first thing is prevent access to the door and also stop this constant rehearsal of them getting involved every time something happens around the front door. Now, the second thing I would say to you is plan for people coming in the front door. You know people are going to come visit you during the day, and if you've got dinner guests or people coming over, then you know they are coming. So you're going to have your resources that we're going to use to reduce this behavior, ready to go. What we don't want to be is you are trying to manage the people coming in, manage your Chihuahua's crazy behavior, and then you're trying to distract them with some of the games and resources that we're going to put in place. That's just all not going to work in the heat of the moment. So in order to prevent this rehearsal and prevent this crazy behavior at the door, you need to plan for it and manage it. So how did I stop my Chihuahuas from interacting with our visitor who doesn't like dogs very much? Now, what I wanted from my dogs is a completely neutral response. I wanted them to go, yeah, I know you're here, but you're nothing to us. You're none of our business. And the way I was going to do that is to give them something more positive and more interesting for them to do. So the first thing we do is we have taken off the doorbell. I don't want this massive triggering noise that's going to create a Chihuahua bomb. I've got 5 Chihuahuas, so the potential for a Chihuahua bomb is actually quite high. So I don't want that, because once everybody's arousal level has gone up, they all start feeding off each other, and then you kind of get this Chihuahua feedback loop, which if you've got more than one, you're probably quite familiar with. So I know my visitor's outside, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to go rushing to the front door in this massive energetic burst, because my dogs will go, oh, something interesting and exciting's happening over there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to settle my dogs down, okay? So I'm going to put them in the kitchen with a baby gate across the door with some things to do, some high value things for the dogs to get involved with. Number one, perfect opportunity to get out the snuffle mat. Now, if you don't know what a snuffle mat is, I'll put it on screen for you, and there's links to where you can buy them from below. Snuffle mats are brilliant because they keep the dog engaged. You just sprinkle little bits of food in it and the dog will be snuffling for it. The same can be said for snuffle balls as well. Mika likes a snuffle ball more than he likes a snuffle mat. So we had one ready to go with some food in it, but it's actually part of their daily food allowance. It's not treats. I don't really feed my Chihuahuas treats because they're too small and I don't really want them getting fat. So we take out some of their dinner and we sprinkled that into the mats, and then when my visitor's at the front door, the mats go down for the dogs. Now, a mat or a snuffle ball is not going to last that long, so I had some other resources ready to go as well. But while they're on this snuffle mat, while they're engaged with their snuffle mat, I will then bring my visitor in. I will settle my visitor down. Number one tip, give your visitors something to do, because my visitor at this time didn't really like dogs, so they're not really going to engage with them. But what you don't want is your visitor going up and leaning and getting involved with your dog and pushing their arousal level right up, okay? So give them something to do. Could be a cup of tea, could be a glass of wine or whatever, but give them something to do and sit them down, okay? So that you are managing your visitor as well as your dog. Now we also use some lick mats as well. So I put some coconut oil smeared it onto a lick mat, and I stuck those to the kitchen doors so that when they'd finished their snuffle mats, they had something else to go to. I put some mats down on the floor so they had something warm to sit on and they could just get engaged in their lick mats. So it was all about keeping the dogs busy so that they have something more interesting to do. And now another reason this is a good idea is because the visitor coming in might push their arousal level up and their anxiety up. So I want to do something for the dogs that is calming, that is going to push them back into a seeking frame of mind. Now, a seeking frame of mind is a positive frame of mind. It's what dogs like to do. They like to scavenge, they like to hunt, and that's all really good for their mental health. And snuffle mats, snuffle ball, lick mats, etc., they kind of replicate that. So once they'd all settled down, then I might allow the dogs to come out. Now, for sure, I would put Arlo, possibly Prince, and maybe Mika on an indoor harness and line, because they are the 3 dogs who are going to be the most worried about having a stranger in the house. And I want to be able to control that situation. I really want my dogs to ignore them, But if they do go up to them, I need to be able to control the situation. In this instance, they came out of the kitchen and they just went and got in their bed and minded their own business because their arousal level had come right down. Whereas had I just let them have access to this visitor the moment that he came through the door, then they would have been running around, barking, and possibly, in Prince's case, trying to nip ankles. So they came out of the kitchen and I just completely ignored him and just went to bed. So those are the best ways to start to manage your Chihuahua's arousal when you get visitors in. Now, there are a couple of other things you can do if that scenario isn't necessarily going to work for the way that you're set up. So a couple of other good ideas. If you've got access to the garden, that you can scatter feed outside. And what scatter feeding is, just taking some of their daily food allowance and throwing it across the grass. That replicates, again, the scavenging, and it's also just like a big snuffle mat. So you throw the food over the grass, and then your Chihuahua will go out there and he'll be scavenging in the grass and not minding the visitor in the house. Another good thing to do, possibly, again, if your arrangement works for this, is use your car as a crate. So if it's safe to do so, and it's not boiling hot, is you put your Chihuahuas in the crate, in the car, as if it were a crate. You bring your visitors in, settle your visitors down, bring the dogs through on a long line, on an indoor harness and line, and settle them down with a snuffle mat or something out of the visitor's way. So those tips will help bring the arousal level down and help your dog not interact with the visitors. Now, last but not least, is when your visitors leave, again, that is going to create a surge of energy. Your dog, the person gets up. If your Chihuahua is bothered by movement, and Chihuahuas can be quite hypervigilant to movement, you might find again that they're quite likely to want to get involved with that visitor. Now, that could be jumping up at them. It could be, in Mika's case, in his youth, he might have, that person moved and he might have tried to nip them. He doesn't do that anymore. He's quite elderly now. So another thing to do is think about when your people are going to leave. So again, you could put them in the kitchen on something to do, remove them from the situation, or have them, or any dog that's likely to get their teeth out, put them on a harness or a long line, or even take them back out to the car. If they're going to bite, then let your visitor leave and then bring the dogs back in. So it's all about preventing rehearsal of the behavior and keeping your Chihuahuas managed and doing something more positive than allowing them to have this massive explosion and energy and excitement as people come in the door. I hope you found our strategies for dealing with visitors helpful. And if you are looking for more training ideas and tips for dealing with some of our Chihuahuas' slightly crazy behavior, then do join us in Chihuahua School. Chihuahua School is our online program where we will take you through step by step on dealing with your Chihuahua's crazy barking, aggressive behavior. Will help you grow more confidence and rebuild your walk so that you have a nice, calm walk with your dogs. The link to Chihuahua School is below. We're open for enrollment. So if you want to help your Chihuahua grow in confidence using positive training techniques, then please join us there.